What you are about to see was thought to be impossible. A bridge rebuilt over a canyon of controversy. A family reunion so unexpected, it's sending shockwaves through their community and beyond. This is the Christmas moment nobody saw coming. But what does it truly mean? And what painful realities lie just beneath the surface of these smiling holiday photos? Strap in. The story is more complex and more human than any headline can capture. For years, the world watched the Duggar family. They were a phenomenon. A blueprint for a certain kind of life, broadcast for all to see. But behind the coordinated outfits and the counting of children, there was always a more complicated narrative simmering. And perhaps no single member of that family has come to symbolize a journey of profound personal change more than Jinger Duggar. While the family name remained a constant, Jinger's path diverged. She moved across the country. She began to articulate a faith and a worldview that sounded different. She wrote a book, speaking of freedom from fear-based beliefs. She and her husband, Jeremy, built a life visibly distinct from the one in Arkansas. The distance wasn't just geographical, it was philosophical, theological, emotional. Rumors of strain became accepted as fact. The narrative was set, a separation, not just of miles, but of hearts. Which is why these Christmas images are so utterly arresting. Pictures from a holiday gathering. Jinger, her husband, her two beautiful daughters, and her parents, Jim Bob and Michelle Duggar, together. In a warmly decorated living room. Smiles that seem genuine. Embraces that look heartfelt. After years of speculated estrangement, here was visual, tangible proof of a connection. The internet, of course, erupted. Some celebrated it as a Christmas miracle, a testament to the unbreakable bonds of family. Others viewed it with deep skepticism, questioning the motives, the timing, the authenticity. But to get trapped in that binary, was it completely perfect or entirely performative, is to miss the profound human story at the core. This isn't a storyline from a reality TV show. This is real life. And in real life, family dynamics are the most intricate, painful, and beautiful webs we navigate. Think about your own family for a moment. The unspoken agreements. The carefully avoided topics at the dinner table. The love that persists even through profound disagreement. The longing for connection that battles with the need for personal integrity. Now amplify that under the glare of a national spotlight, within the context of a highly structured belief system, and amid a history of public and private trauma. The weight is unimaginable. What does it take to walk back into a room like that? It likely takes immense courage on all sides. It requires a temporary, or perhaps a lasting, suspension of the need to be right, in favor of the need to be connected. It may involve setting boundaries while simultaneously opening a door. It might mean agreeing, silently, to let love for grandchildren, for children, exist in a space separate from debate. This reunion doesn't necessarily mean every issue is resolved. It doesn't signal a full return to the fold or a renunciation of her personal journey. Human reconciliation is rarely that clean. It could simply mean this, that in the quiet holiness of Christmas, a season centered on hope, peace, and reconciliation, a daughter wanted her parents to see their grandchildren's faces light up. And parents longed to see their daughter in her own element. Maybe, for one day, that was enough. This story is unfolding in real time, and your voice is part of the conversation. If this deep dive into the human side of a headline is valuable to you, do us a huge favor. Hit that like button right now. It's the single best way to support this channel and tell YouTube you want more content like this. And here's a direct challenge, a show of support for Jinger's very public and personal journey. Let's try to get this video to 50,000 likes. Let's send a message that stories of nuance, of personal growth, and of complex family love matter. Every single like counts. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe and tap the bell. We unpack stories like this every single week, and we don't want you to miss a thing. So, where do we land on this? The sad news, hinted in so many sensational headlines, isn't necessarily in the reunion itself. The sadness is in the years of distance that made this moment so shocking. The sadness is in the public dissection of a private pain. The sadness is in the knowledge that for every family that finds a holiday truce, countless others remain fractured. But the hope is in the fact that it happened at all. Jinger Duggar made a choice. A choice to step back into a complicated history, not as the person she was told to be, but likely as the person she has become. And her parents made a choice to be there. That is the real headline. Not a fairy tale ending, but a messy, courageous, deeply human chapter in an ongoing story. It's a testament to the idea that love doesn't always mean agreement. Sometimes, especially in the hardest situations, love just means showing up. It means sitting together in the same room, under the same Christmas lights, holding onto the fragile, precious thread of family, however frayed, however strained, because the alternative, letting it go completely, is a price too high for many to pay. This Christmas reunion isn't an end. It's a fragile, new beginning. And its ultimate meaning will be written not in headlines or social media comments, but in the quiet, private choices this family makes in all the days that follow. What are your thoughts on complex family reconciliations? Can distance and difference coexist with love? Share your respectful perspectives in the comments below. We read every single one. Remember to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives into the stories everyone is talking about. Until next time, stay curious. So, we've looked at the emotional earthquake of the reunion itself. But to truly understand the significance of those Christmas photos, we have to go on a journey. We have to rewind the tape and trace the path that led to this specific, frozen moment in time. This isn't just about a holiday visit. It's about the convergence of two separate journeys onto a single, shared driveway. Let's re-examine the departure. Jinger's move away from the family's epicenter in Arkansas wasn't a single event. It was a process, a gradual unfolding of a new identity. For years, she was Jinger Duggar, one of the 19, known for her love of fashion and city life, a detail often mentioned as a charming quirk within the large, rural family. But after her marriage to Jeremy Vuolo, a former professional soccer player turned pastor, the quirk became a compass. Their move to Laredo, Texas, and later to Los Angeles, California, was symbolic. It was a physical manifestation of moving towards a different horizon. The backdrop of their lives shifted from rural simplicity to urban complexity. Then came the public statements. In interviews and most notably in her book, Becoming Free Indeed, Jinger began to articulate a theological and personal awakening. She spoke of being raised in a culture of man-made rules and fear, and of discovering a faith centered on grace and freedom. She distanced herself from the specific teachings of Bill Gothard, whose Institute in Basic Life Principles had deeply influenced her parents' child-rearing philosophy. This was no longer just a geographical distance. This was a public delineation of a different belief system. Every interview, every social media post from her life in California became a soft but persistent counter-narrative to the one she was raised in. Now, let's consider the family system she left. The Duggar family brand was built on unity, on a monolithic presentation of belief and lifestyle. Public divergence was the one thing the narrative couldn't easily absorb. For a family that operated as a unit, a member speaking independently and critically about the very foundations of that unit, it's not just personal, it's structural. We must also consider the immense external pressures. The family has been through very public scandals and tragedies. The shining, perfect image was irrevocably shattered years ago. In the aftermath, each adult child had to navigate a landscape of public shame, private pain, and their own relationship to the family name. Some stayed closer to the core, maintaining visible alignment. Others, like Jinger and her sister Jill, who has also written a searingly honest memoir, took steps to tell their own stories, to establish their own financial and emotional independence. This created a fascinating and public spectrum, from those who remain deeply embedded in the Arkansas compound's life, to those who are building identities visibly separate from it. Jinger found herself, whether she sought it or not, as a figurehead for this path of independent identity formation. Her journey became a roadmap or a cautionary tale, depending on who you asked. This brings us to the central, unspoken question hanging over that Christmas reunion, the negotiation. What was spoken in the weeks and months leading up to that visit? What texts were exchanged? What phone calls were made, perhaps tentatively, after long periods of silence? We can only speculate, but we can speculate intelligently based on patterns of family reconciliation. There is almost always a negotiation of terms, even if those terms are never voiced aloud. The topic negotiation: what subjects are off limits? Is there an unspoken agreement not to discuss theology, not to debate the contents of her book, not to relitigate past choices? Does the conversation deliberately stay in the safe harbors of children, weather, memories, and present joys? The boundary negotiation: how long is the visit? Where does it take place? Is it at her home, establishing her territory, or on neutral ground? The photos suggest her home, a powerful detail. She is the hostess. She sets the tone. The publicity negotiation: this is uniquely Duggar. Who posts the photos? What caption is written? Who is tagged? The curation of the public image has been the family's currency for decades. The sharing of these images was a deliberate act, a joint statement. It said, "We are together. We acknowledge this." The careful positivity of the captions is part of the peace treaty. This negotiation isn't dishonest. It's the delicate architecture that allows damaged relationships to bear weight again. It's the scaffolding around a fragile new structure. And at the center of this scaffolding? The grandchildren. Here is perhaps the most powerful, universal force in this entire story: the love for the next generation. For Jim, Bob, and Michelle, those two little girls, Evangeline and Felicity, are not concepts. They are their grandchildren. Their smiles, their hugs, their childish wonder at Christmas. This is a language that bypasses doctrine and debate entirely. For Jinger and Jeremy, allowing that bond to form, with supervision, within their own walls, is an act of immense generosity. It is a gift of access. It says, "You may not fully understand or approve of my path, but you can love my children and they can love you." The grandchildren become the living, breathing bridge. They are the common project, the shared joy, the undeniable proof that some connections are bigger than disagreement. In countless family estrangements, it is the birth of a child that prompts the first, hesitant phone call. The child becomes the reason to try again. Look at the photos. Where are the genuine, unguarded smiles? Often, they're in the shots with the children. The kids dissolve the tension. They demand a present-focused joy. They are the ultimate diplomats. Now, let's talk about you. Because you're not just a passive viewer in this. Your consumption of this story, and stories like it, shapes the ecosystem in which this family operates. Think about the headlines that drew you here. Shocking reunion. Heartbreak as family reunites. The sad truth behind the smiles. This is the economy of sensationalism. It takes a nuanced human process, fraught with pain, courage, hope, and ambiguity, and flattens it into a binary of win/lose, victim/villain, good/sad. This framing does a disservice to everyone involved. It pressures Jinger to be a perfect symbol of liberation. It pressures her parents to be either repentant villains or vindicated authorities. It leaves no room for the messy, non-linear reality of being human. When we, as an audience, reward that sensationalism with clicks and outrage, we perpetuate a cycle that makes honest, private reconciliation harder. We create an environment where every gesture is analyzed for loyalty or betrayal, where a simple hug is dissected for hidden meanings. What if we chose to see this differently? What if we saw it not as a strategic move in a public relations battle, but as what it might simply be, a family, with a famously complicated history, choosing to sit together for a turkey dinner? Your engagement right now is a vote for what kind of content matters. We're trying to do something different here, to add depth, context, and humanity to the headlines. If this perspective resonates with you, we need you to be part of this community. We're aiming for that 50,000 likes goal. Let's prove that thoughtful commentary wins over cheap gossip. Every like directly supports this channel's mission to delve deeper. It tells the algorithm that this kind of analysis is valuable. And if you want to be here for the next deep dive, because there will always be another story the world is getting wrong, make sure subscribe is clicked and that bell is turned on. So, where does the story go from here? This reunion is not a full circle moment. The circle has been broken and remade into a new shape, perhaps something more like an ellipse, with two centers of gravity that occasionally, carefully, orbit close to each other. The future likely holds more negotiated peace than total war. There may be more holidays, but perhaps not every holiday. There will be phone calls and photo updates centered on the children. There will be public events, like weddings or births, where the family assembles for the camera and the world will again dissect every glance. The true test won't be in these grand gestures, but in the quiet, ongoing work. Can both sides continue to respect the new boundaries? Can love, in its simplest forms, remembering a birthday, asking about a child's school play, offering prayer in a time of sickness, flow through the new channels they've built? Jinger Duggar Familly's journey remains one of the most compelling public transformations of recent years. She is building a life of her own design, phrase by phrase, choice by choice. This Christmas reunion doesn't undo that. If anything, it may strengthen it. By establishing a connection on her own terms, she integrates a part of her past without surrendering her present. And for her parents? It offers a relationship with a daughter and grandchildren that rigid adherence to old rules might have permanently forfeited. It is a lesson in adaptation, in the softening that love for grandchildren can inspire. In the end, this isn't a Duggar story. It's a human story. It's about the eternal push and pull between the family we come from and the self we must become. It's about the painful, glorious, and necessary work of redefining love across a gap of understanding. That work doesn't make for a clean, clickable headline, but it makes for a life. And in those Christmas photos, if you look past the shock value, you might just see the faint, beautiful outline of that hard-won, perfectly imperfect life, beginning to take shape. What do you think the future holds for this family dynamic? Share your respectful and thoughtful predictions in the comments. Remember to like this video to support Jinger's journey and this channel's mission, subscribe and hit the bell. Thank you for watching with an open mind. Until next time.